All right, I want to start with something that's kind of been on my mind lately. It's been bugging me a little bit. Every year around this time, we get the best of movies of the year list. Rolling Stone drops theirs, Variety drops theirs, tons of other publications that drops theirs. But as I'm reading Rolling Stones and Variety, I'm going through, I'm seeing some of these films, and there's a lot of these films I kind of do agree with. These are some great films, these are great projects. There's a lot of films that I felt like, okay, why are these films on this list? But there was one film that was missing that wasn't on either list, Rolling Stones or Variety, which kind of threw me off. And of course, I'm talking about Sinners. And that's wild because Sinners was absolutely one of the best films of the year. It was one of the most talked about films of the year. It was one of the most celebrated films of the year. It was one of the most praised films of the year. So for it not to be on these lists is a bit confusing. So today I really want to talk about it, not defensively, not being angry. I just really want to take a look at why this film was left off of those lists. And I really want to talk about what this says about the industry itself. Okay. So thanks for joining me on And Another Thing. Let's talk about it. So before we even get into the omission, let's be clear about the movie we're talking about itself. If you haven't seen it, you might want to pause this, hit the subscribe button, come back again, and then listen. But if you have, let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about Sinners. And at this point, Coogler isn't some up and coming filmmaker. He's a proven one. He did Fruitville Station. He did Creed. He did Black Panther. He's working on adapting the X Files into a TV series. So the man has a big body of work by now. It's like that body of work though is built on like character, culture, and emotion with a lot of box office success. He gave Marvel their first $1 billion movie out of Black Panther. So when Coogler makes a horror leaning period set film that blends music, history, and fear, it's not a gimmick. It's not like something he's just trying to put out. Like this was very intentional. This was a very thought of film, and this was a very well researched film. Sinners isn't trying to scare you. It really has something to say. Sinners also has a great cast, has an amazing performance by Michael B. Jordan, who probably will get nominated for an Oscar. It has Delroy Lindo giving a very powerful performance as well. I mean, the movie has all of the pieces. So here's where I was a little bit more confused, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people out there were pretty confused because despite being left off of those lists, Sinners was praised. It was heavily praised. Critics groups talked about it, industry people talked about it, fans talked about it. The word of mouth traveled very heavy on this film. And then you had people like Christopher Nolan. He doesn't throw compliments around casually. Like he praised the film, he praised the craftsmanship of the film, he praised the river dance of the film, comparing it to A Clockwork Orange. And then you had people like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has been kind of an ambassador for film, and he's really championed theatrical movies. He even stood out and said, "Hey, you need to go see this movie." Okay. He praised the film. He said, go see this movie. It has a big impact. And the movie did very, very well in the theaters. Because you have to ask yourself, when filmmakers and actors like that are paying attention, it means something. Like these people who understand scale, they understand risk, they understand storytelling and what it takes to pull something like that off. So again, how does this movie not make the list? So let's get into the answer here because I think part of the answer is actually pretty simple, even though it's been something that's been debated for decades or pretty much since the genre has been created. And the bottom line is horror films still make critics uncomfortable. Even now, like unless it fits a very specific elevated label, horror tends to get pushed aside when it's time to talk about award seasons or what the best film was. Sinners doesn't really play that game though. Sinners is like it's yes, it's dark, but it's loud, it's musical, and it has messy in the way history is messy. And on top of that, it's unapologetically black. It doesn't explain itself, it doesn't translate its culture, it doesn't soften the edges. If anything, it teaches you about a part of a culture that most people didn't even know about. And sometimes if a movie doesn't just fit into a neat little box, critics just don't know what to do with it, especially if it's horror. But here's the thing though, lists aren't everything. Some movies win lists, other movies win people. Sinners stuck with the people. It sparked conversations, it made folks argue, it made people feel seen and unsettled. And honestly, those are usually the films that age the best. History is full of movies that were snubbed in the moment and then celebrated later. Sinners is definitely going to be one of those films. You can see it now with what everyone's talking about when you're looking at films like One Battle After Another and Hamnet, and how they're continually pushing Sinners down that list when it comes to awards this season. Might not win anything. It may win some little side pieces, but Sinners definitely made an impact this year, and it's really an impact that can't be denied. So now let's talk about and let's ask the uncomfortable question: is Sinners being overlooked because it's a black film? It's a legitimate question. And more specifically, is it because it's a black film that doesn't explain itself? It doesn't have to basically soften itself to some other culture. It doesn't have to center around whiteness at any point of entry. There's a pattern for those type of films. Just look at the Green Book. There's no disrespect to Green Book, but that's pretty much what part of that argument has been when it comes to that film. Black films that get embraced by a lot of these lists often fall into like these different categories. Trauma stories that reassure audiences they're witnessing something important, historical pain framed in familiar prestige language, or social issue films that make critics feel morally aligned. Sinners doesn't do that. Sinners doesn't do any of that. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't translate itself. It doesn't comfort you. It's not here for that. It's here to tell the story, and it's here to create emotion. It's here to create a feeling, and it's here to be a part of a movement, and it does that. So let's take a quick look at who decides what best means, right? This is where lists stop being neutral. Best of lists aren't just about quality, they're about taste, they're about access, and basically who makes the decisions. Rolling Stone and Variety don't just reflect opinion, they shape legacy. So when Sinners is left off the list, the message isn't this film wasn't good enough. The message comes across as this film doesn't fit how we define greatness. So that's a problem. And because greatness doesn't always look polite, it doesn't always sound familiar, it doesn't play by the genre rules, it gets disqualified. Okay, finally, so here's the truth. Sinners doesn't need a list to validate it. We all know that. We all saw it. We all enjoyed it. It's an impact that's already felt. It's an audience that already exists. Its place in the culture is already secured, is already cemented. But these omissions still matter. Being left off the list still matters because list tells future filmmakers what's allowed. They tell studios what's safe. They tell audiences what they're supposed to value. And when a film like Sinners gets left off the list, it raises a bigger question. Are we still uncomfortable with horror when it becomes cultural commentary instead of just a slasher film? Or are we simply afraid of films that refuse to behave, refuse to fit into a box? Because here's what Variety and Rolling Stones has to ask themselves. If Sinners isn't one of the best films of 2025, what exactly are we measuring? And what exactly are you trying to tell us? If you've seen Sinners, let me know where you would like to rank it at. If you haven't seen Sinners, go watch it. Like now. Go watch it now. Okay? Because you got to remember, sometimes the most important films aren't the ones crowned by the industry. They aren't the ones that are on the list. They're the ones that linger long after the film is gone. And this has been another thing with me, Shalako. Thanks for joining me. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please make sure you also like and share. And if you have anything against something that I said, or if you just want to comment something I said, please leave your comments below. All right? Take it easy. Go watch Sinners. Go and watch all the movies. Enjoy yourself. This has been a great year for movies. I'll talk to you soon.